What is up, everybody? Glad to be back to push you forward to the second part of your week. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Blake Beasley, and this is the 40% BS podcast, but I'm only half of what is presented by Tunnel Vision Sports. The other half is
What's up, y'all? 10% of the BS here. Spencer Mose on the table, going with Blake Beasley, ready to chop it up today for you folks. We got a lot of things to talk about in the NBA, NFL, and excited to be here once again every Wednesday with Blake Beasley.
yeah, and we'll have a special guest, Dylan Holt, return, actually, our first two-time guest, and he will be back later on during the show when it's time to talk about the Tennessee Bulls. But first thing we have to talk about is something also orange, Phoenix Suns. Legend Steve Nash was fired after a 2-5 start to the season. He won 60% of his games. He had a 7-9 playoff record, finishing it with being swept by Boston. What do you think of the firing, Spencer?
I think it needed to come. I know me and you talked about this on a previous podcast. We actually just threw it in at the end somewhere about Brooklyn and kind of the downfall that was coming. And I think you have to go with firing Steve Nash right away. It was obvious that you weren't going to get everything out of the Brooklyn Nets, especially with Kevin Durant not wanting Steve Nash there. And originally when he was talking to the GM and the owners in the offseason, he says basically it's either me or Steve Nash. And so they chose KD over him. And I think it's a smart decision. Steve Nash has really not been the answer to the coaching decision in Brooklyn. As you can see, I mean, he won 60% of the games, like you said, and really made some questionable decisions last year in the postseason. And so I think maybe going out and, I mean, there's talks of them getting Ime Udoka. I think this would be probably a really good pickup for them. Like he came to the Celtics last year, and you have Tatum and Brown there, and I think that would greatly coincide with having Kyrie Irving and KD kind of could do the same things that he was doing in Boston with the team in Brooklyn. So I hope they hire Ime, give him another chance, especially because how good of a coach he was last year, and we kind of saw the play style that Boston was running. And I think that especially if they're going to hire Ime in Brooklyn, I think it could reap the benefits from KD and Kyrie because they're shooting the ball so much, the ball in their hands are all the time. And you saw when the Celtics got Ime, they really started spreading the ball around, getting others involved, and actually helped Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown out down the course of the season.
Yeah, what I think is really interesting, more for the Nets aspect, and I thought of this right now, when you mentioned KD. Steve Nash was what, like about this many inches from Kevin hitting that shot, beating the Nets, and then them going to the finals, and he's probably still a head coach right now.
Yeah,
That's actually insane when you really kind of like put that into words. So you think about how close it is. Also, like winning 60% of your games, back-to-back playoff appearances. That is great if you don't have James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving on your team. Just the fact that those players were on a squad and they were not very good overall defensively. I remember vividly, I think it was game three against the Bucks. Yeah, game three against the Bucks about 2 years ago. And one of the players went down, and I just remember literally watching them for a whole quarter and thinking, I don't think they've ran a single offensive set this entire time. It seemed like we talked about who mixtape. It seemed like he was literally just sitting there like, hey, Kyrie, cook him. Like there was no type of structure under Steve Nash in that offense. So I think it was a long time coming.
yeah, no, I fully agree, and especially getting Brooklyn pieces back. Um, I think could be a huge factor. I mean, they didn't have a lot of key players last year with Kyrie Irving sitting out, especially with COVID and everything going on. And so I hope that they turn this around. But obviously, they did need a coaching change. It was either really the coaching change, or they were going to have to. Katie and Kyrie were probably going to get another trade request coming in. And so I think that if you want to keep this core around, Kyrie and KD do want to play together. They seem like really good friends. KD is really kind of the savior in Brooklyn when it comes to helping them out, and especially almost taking them to the game-winning shot last year against the Bucks, which fell unfortunate to the Celtics beating the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. But I think it's the right choice you have to make, and it was a long time coming. Well, not a long time coming, but I know we talked about earlier in the season. You just saw it that you have to get rid of him. There's no other choice that you can do, especially with this given offensive power on the team. You got to make a change, and hopefully you can get the best of what has kind of been a blow up in Brooklyn the past 2 years, past 3 years.
Yeah, no, especially, I mean, also it's got to be start out with the locker room overall. You have Kevin Durant who said, trade me or fire Nash or I'm gone, which is just shows he has little control over Kevin. Then you have Cam Thomas, a young player on the team. I don't know if you remember in the offseason, they mentioned Steve Nash's name in the interview, and his response literally is just like that one golfer meme where he literally was just like, they were
Yeah.
getting irritated at the thought of Steve Nash. And the biggest thing for me is just looking at the fact is I said they weren't running an offense. Whatever they were doing on defense, sure as heck didn't work either. I was looking at their stats so far this year. They are bottom 5, as in the 5 worst in the entire league in opponent 3-point percentage, points allowed, rebounds allowed, offensive rebounds allowed, steals allowed, field goal percentages allowed, turnovers allowed. Like I had to take a breath because I was getting tired of listing how many stuff they let go defensively. It's ridiculous. And then that's why bringing in Ime Udoka, yes, I'll address immediately, and we won't get deep into it because like television sports, we're not talking about that type of stuff. There was a controversy with him for crude language with a female subordinate before start of improper workplace relationships, quote unquote, Adrian Wojnarowski, not Blake Beasley. But let's get into the basketball aspect. The Nets were 29th overall defensively last year. This year, I'm pretty sure they're 30th. So they're horrible on defense. The Celtics were 37-12 since the month of February to close out that year. That's great basketball, 37 for 12. And then also let's look at the fact that if the biggest issue with the Brooklyn Nets is the fact that they're not running a consistently good defense, bringing in Ime, his first year as the head coach, all starters on his roster got an all NBA defensive vote. The NBA 3-point defensive rating, Boston was first. They were allowing people 33% from the field. And then you got to look at after game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals, the playoff stat leaders, all of them were Smart was first in charges drawn. Brown was first in loose balls recovered. Tatum is first in deflections. Horford's first in shot contested. Williams was first in blocks per 36, AKA his entire starting 5 was playing really, really, really good defense. If you can give the Brooklyn Nets just somewhat of a competent coach and have them play defense and kind of tap into that Ben Simmons defensive potential, they could actually be a contender again.
No, yeah, I fully agree. And especially the word I want to highlight here that you said is confidence and coaching. This is key. It seemed like Steve Nash just did not want to get on KD and Kyrie for not playing hard. But I was watching the Bulls game yesterday against Brooklyn, and Brooklyn just seems to not even want to play defense on the court. I mean, there was a loose ball, and I saw Alex Caruso dive in between 3 Brooklyn players. It just at some point it's just heart and how much you want it, especially on the defensive side of things. It's something that not a lot of people want to do. You have Royce O'Neal, who you picked up as a 3-and-D player, and you want to help out your defense, but really, I mean, they're 30th, like you said. And so I guess just getting all-stars to want to play defense again, like they did with Tatum and Brown, and you have a dog on your team with Marcus Smart. Now you're switching to Royce O'Neal, who's a defensive player, and you can use Nick Claxton in kind of a way that they were using Williams like in the paint and everything to block shots. I mean, he's a tall, lengthy guy. But really it comes down to KD and Kyrie trying to get the most effort out of them, trying for them to play defense, but then also just getting everything out of them you can on the offensive side of the things, and really trying to get them to playing 100% at all times. Like you looked at Kyrie yesterday, and it looked like he didn't even want to be in the game. I'm pretty sure he scored 4 points. Most likely, if I'm 100% accurate, I don't think he scored in the first half, if I remember right. So it looks like he's just not even wanting to play hard out there. I mean, LeBron, I don't think he has not scored in double figures in like, I don't know how many games. They said it on the, yeah, like Kyrie Irving is a superstar and scored 4 points in yesterday's game. That sure as hell can't happen. If you're the coach and you see one of your superstars struggling, you got to get him the free throw line. You got to get him attacking. If he's not knocking down 3-point shots, you got to get him some easy shots so he can get into the flow of the game. And obviously, with Steve Nash as your coach, former point guard, you think that he would have the mind to get him there, but obviously it just wasn't working, and it was totally right call.
Yeah, I agree 100%. One thing I do want to throw in there, just because it's a chance to take the jab at the Warriors, so I have to.
Yeah.
That Steve Kerr coaching tree is looking real nasty. Luke Walton, fired. Steve Nash, fired. Technically, Ime's from that tree because he's underneath Steve Nash. So, I mean, he has a job now, but
Yeah.
counted that. So, speaking of winners and losers, well, also, I just want to throw in something I have to, too. The Warriors have as many losses as the Los Angeles Lakers. That's being overlooked. I want to throw that in there. But just switching to NFL, I had to take the dig I needed to at them.
Yeah.
Because I know later on they're going to have an amazing year and I won't get a chance to.
Well, you got to fully take the dig. I mean, those guys don't want to play defense either. It's awful to watch right now. Curry's leading the team in every category there is possible. It's like no one else wants to show up almost. But they are superstars. They'll probably get it together after a while. But a- at some point in time, you have to want to play defense. We said this earlier. Defense wins championships. You saw the Warriors and Celtics going out in the finals yesterday, two of the best defensive teams in the world. And so if they're trying to get back there, especially with the Brooklyn Nets, since we're talking about them, Golden State Warriors, even the Lakers, those are three teams that don't play defense right now. And so at some point you have to get it together, and it just comes down to wanting. Defense is not, you don't have to be the best skilled player to play on defense. It's just a heart and will.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Defense does win championships in any league. Trades sometimes can too. So switching gears over to the NFL, the trade deadline for the first time in my life, I can at least remember, was actually interesting in the NFL. Normally, like it's like one or two trades. I kept getting updates on my phone just popping off, popping off, popping off. So there was a lot of deals that happened. We're not going to be able to get into all of them, but we could just go back and forth. I say a winner, you say a winner, then I say a loser, you say a loser, and then we could just start. For my winner, my first one, I got the Baltimore Ravens. And I know people are attacking that Roquan Smith trade. First of all, I'll get into it. For those of you who don't know, Roquan Smith was traded for his second and a fifth, and AJ Klein. And yes, he is on an expiring contract that is going away. But when I tell you Roquan Smith is one of the most talented players in the NFL, that is no exaggeration. And the Baltimore Ravens are ridiculously talented on offense because of Lamar, in my opinion. But they have blown two 17-point leads, and they have shown they're not capable of getting it done defensively. So getting a Pro Bowl level talent and a locker room leader in Roquan Smith for only a second and a fifth is ridiculous to me. And also looking at them, you got Tyus Bowser's coming back. David, I don't want to butcher his name, Ojagbo. Either way, David, he's coming back. He's activated this week. Two key linebackers to that team. And now you're bringing in Roquan Smith, and it looks like the Baltimore Ravens could actually make a jump to winning the AFC North. The Steelers aren't a threat. And with the Jamar Chase injury, it's really looking like it's starting to open up. They took the leap to try to win right now while they still have Lamar Jackson under contract. And I love that move, and that's why they're a winner for me.
No, yeah, I'm going the same way you are. I was thinking Baltimore Ravens the whole way. It's a big pickup picking up Roquan Smith within the trade deadline. And as you look at it, I think the most important factor acquiring him in the trade is you need to sign him to a long-term deal. Otherwise, it's almost a bust. If you're going to trade a second and fifth round pick, it's going to be a hefty price if you only get him for half a season. You didn't end up signing him for a long time. But like you said, I mean, this is a Ravens team where you look at the record and you're like, ooh, I don't know if they're that good. They've led going in after halftime in every game, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, they should. You could argue that maybe they should have one loss. Maybe they shouldn't even have a loss on this season. But it really comes down to their defense, and he should help them out the rest of the season. He's the leading tackler in the NFL right now. So like you were saying before, he's just a guy in the locker room that's going to be helping out the diversity within the defensive unit. And I think this is a huge pickup for them. It helps their defense. And this is the area that they really need to sustain, as they've been allowing so many points, especially in the fourth quarter. So hopefully this pickup will allow them to do that and hopefully create a long, sustainable postseason for them. But like I said, you need to sign them to a lucrative deal. Otherwise the trade's kind of busted. It's not even worth it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So who's your loser? Who's a loser you have?
I would say the loser. I was trying to go between these two, and I'm going to say it's either got to be the Rams or the Packers in this case. And the Packers probably because Aaron Rodgers has showed that he doesn't like his receiving core. I don't know how many years you have left of Aaron Rodgers being on the Packers or even in the NFL. And I would have thought, for how smart the Green Bay normally is, they would try to go out like a Claypool or someone like that. But even I mean, Chicago offered more than the Green Bay could, and that just kind of blows my mind. I would rather go to the Packers if I were Claypool, but he doesn't have that choice in the trade on the trade deadline, and so I think it's kind of crazy they didn't try to acquire a piece for Rodgers to throw to, and trying to up their potential in the NFC. So it's just kind of crazy, and I wish they would have done something, because I want to see Aaron Rodgers cook some more, but I don't really know. Other than that, I have the Rams, just because you need to replace Von Miller on defense as well. And I honestly thought they were going to try to go after Christian McCaffrey more than they did, but the 49ers ended up outbidding more than them. But the Panthers turned down an offer for 2 first round picks and Brian Burns. And so the Rams need an offensive lineman too, didn't get that. And so kind of with all that, they've been struggling this year and did not acquire any other pieces in the trade deadline. So it kind of goes hand in hand with the Packers. We both thought these teams would be decent. Maybe you were down on the Packers to start with, just because of their wide receiving core, but especially the Rams coming back, you thought they would have a chance, but it looks like losing Von Miller was actually a bigger piece than we initially thought.
Yeah, I had the Packers as well, just because I mean Brandon Cooks literally was on the list as a loser because he wanted to leave the Texans so badly. How do you have a wide receiver that caliber begging to go somewhere and you don't go out and get him when that's literally the only thing you need? Robbie Anderson got traded, they could have used him. DJ Moore wasn't happy. Chase Claypool's not happy, and they still somehow left with nothing. So that's what happened for Green Bay. For the Bears are my other losers, and I know some people even had them as a borderline winner. I'm just really confused as to what they're doing, and I'm the biggest advocate of get Justin Fields help because I love Justin Fields and I don't think Darnell Mooney is enough on that wide receiver core. But it's just an odd direction they're going in. Like for example, you trade away Robert Quinn for a fourth, who is a team captain, a guy who is held in such high esteem. When Roquan Smith found out he was traded, he cried because that is that big part of your locker room. You trade him away for the fourth. Then you trade away your other team captain, Roquan Smith, for a second and a fifth. So then in your head, it's like, oh, okay, well, they're tanking. That's pretty much the move they're going in. They're just not trying to win games. And you give away your second round pick for a wide receiver 3 in Chase Claypool. That doesn't make any sense to me because I don't understand what you're trying to do for your future. If you want to tank and move forward and kind of build towards the future, why would you give away the second most important pick in your entire draft for a wide receiver 3? It makes no sense to me. They confuse me. And I don't think Chase Claypool is that guy. I don't think he's going to be the difference maker. And even if he is, I think this draft is deep enough to where there are wide receivers who have more potential to help be better. And honestly, it just doesn't make sense to me at all. And then do you have any other winners?
No, I'd kind of like just to piggyback on the Bears right here. They're gonna have to open up a checkbook for Clay uh, Claypool. I don't really understand this trade at all. I mean, I get that they're trying to get Justin Fields, probably a number one wide receiver to go to, but I honestly think he's a mediocre wide receiver that just wants to be paid big money, and kind of his name just throws him out there. And so, if you're the Bears, you're gonna have to be paying a lot of money to keep him around, and I don't see it as a wide thing, especially when you have that number two pick, like you were saying. So um, I don't really understand it. It kind of blows my mind that they would try to do that, especially when Justin Fields has kind of been struggling of recently. So I thought it was kind of a weird trade situation. But if you're a Bears fan, and you're the Bears GM, you're the Bears owner, open up that checkbook, baby, because you're gonna be paying Claypool quite a bit.
Yeah, no, it's odd. And personally, I have another winner. I would have included the San Francisco 49ers, but we talked about them so much last week. It
Yeah.
wouldn't make sense. I just wanted to give the shout out. So if there's any Niners fans listening, they can't think, oh, I didn't include them. I have to include them. I have to. Philadelphia Eagles, man. Let's just talk about it. Robert Quinn for a fourth round pick. Are you serious? In the words of Richard Sherman, and I feel the same way now because Howie Roseman has turned into, I don't even know what TV character it is or a movie where you watch it and you're like, this guy's the villain. I'd even go Despicable Me. We can go that far back. You're watching, you're like, oh, this is a bad person. This guy's fully the villain. He's the problem. He's wrong with everything that I like. And then he turns around and Howie Roseman is a gosh dang genius at this point. I mean, a fourth round pick for Robert Quinn. And for those of you who don't know who Robert Quinn is, in the words of Richard Sherman again, if you see Howie Roseman on the other line, hang up the phone because it's not going to work out for you. He was a Pro Bowler last year, started every game last year, got 18 and a half sacks, and the Eagles got him for a fourth round pick that I'm pretty sure we don't even own. So the rich got richer. I had to throw that in there just because I'm super happy about it overall. And especially with Jordan Davis going down, I think it's a big help for the Eagles. And I was looking at our roster, and I do think the Eagles do have a weakness. And the only one that we have isn't on the field. We're so young on defense, ridiculously young on defense. So bringing in a 13-year veteran who is a leader and established team captain in the NFL, it may not show on the field, but that can do volumes for our locker room, especially for a team that's trying to make a deep run towards a Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there.
I know.
It's beautiful. So
Scared the shit out of me. Out down in the Tennessee hills. Ain't no smoggy smoke on like top. Ain't no telephone bill.
I mean, Dylan, how about you
One
join the podcast and your boys are ranked number 1?
I know. I can't believe it. It's like a dream come true. I've like never. I became a Tennessee fan. I don't even know the year. My first game I ever went to was a Tennessee-Georgia game. My dad took me to it. Tennessee beat the ever-living hell out of Georgia, and I was stuck on it. I was like, I love this. I love it so much. And it's like I told Dylan Jesperson on the Dylan and Dylan show, it's like you give like crack to a teenager. And it's like, oh, you're going to want this. You're going to want this feeling. And that's all I've wanted is like the feeling of Tennessee wins. And I've been starved of it for most of my life. But now this season, it's just been like Christmas every Saturday. It's awesome.
Are you going to have a little deja vu come Saturday? Is that what I'm hearing?
I really hope so. I'm really, really hoping so. I don't like being confident as a Tennessee fan because it doesn't usually pan out for me. But I'm kind of getting confident.
And for those of you who don't know, joining us, like I mentioned earlier, we have the menace from Murray State, one of the best quizzers of 4th and 5th grade articles in the history of this nation, the self-proclaimed and also Tunnel Vision Sports representative of the state of Tennessee, one of the best to ever do it, Dylan Holt. Just wanted to get the intro in there. And I have to ask you, when you saw this game before the season, with Georgia coming fresh off a national championship, would you have been able to guess that Tennessee would come in as the overdog, and how does it feel?
So I remember doing the previews for the season, and I was like, Georgia and Alabama are obviously in a tier above everyone else in the SEC. That's what I said then. And I was like, I think Tennessee's getting there. I was like, you can see what they did last season, and they're making strides where they're above teams like Missouri and South Carolina, who they just killed last year. They haven't played them yet this year, but assuming things stay how they've gone, those should be W's for the boys in orange and white, the good guys. I was like, you see the strides. Tennessee last year, they played Georgia, obviously huge underdogs, and they were the only team all year to score on the first drive of the game. And I was like, whoa, that's a big deal. This team isn't supposed to be any good. Hendon Hooker led an amazing drive right down the field at Neyland Stadium. And it's like, hey, they've got something going. And obviously, Tennessee scored like, I think, 17 points in that game, which was the most Georgia gave up in the regular season, that amazing defense. But yeah, in the summer, I was like, it's Alabama and Georgia over everybody else in the SEC. And as the season's gone on, it's like, hey, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was underestimating the boys in orange and white.
Honestly, you love to hear it. And what do you think are your 3 biggest keys to victories going into this game?
So, interesting enough, I was just like, this is going to be a cop-out answer. Score more points than them, obviously. But I've seen some interesting stats. And Blake, I've said it many times, you're the stat guy, but I've got some stats for you. Georgia, since Kirby Smart became the head coach, when they allow 30 points in a game, they're 1-9. Tennessee has scored more than 30 points in every game this season. When Georgia allows less than 30 points, 73-6 in the Kirby Smart era. So that's where the rubber meets the road, as some folks say. And if Tennessee scores 30 points, which they've literally done in every single game this season, it's looking pretty good. Obviously, Tennessee's got to play turnover-free football. If they do, I mean, I don't know if you guys watched the Kentucky game last weekend. The defense turned it on. I sat here last week on the Dylan and Dylan show, on the Talking Vols. I started doing Talking Vols this year. And I was like, the Tennessee defense is bad. Like, that's all it is to it. And I don't like dogging my team, but the defense had been really, really bad. They gave it 300 passing yards to Dresser Wynn, who, shout out to Dresser Wynn from UT Martin, from West Tennessee, a Tennessee kid, just torched the secondary. And then they come back against Will Levis of Kentucky, a guy that people are saying should be picked over Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, hold him to 98 yards and 3 picks. And it's like, whoa, maybe this defense ain't so bad. They gave up 6 points to Kentucky, a team that everybody's kind of been high on, and they're kind of realizing maybe not. LSU played earlier this month, or now it's November, played earlier last month, gave up 13 points to a team that's now top 10 in the country. Man, there's been so many things that changed. If that defense can play like it has against LSU and Kentucky, and maybe get away from how they played against Alabama, which it's Alabama. It's Bryce Young, it's Jahmyr Gibbs, all those guys, they're incredible. And how they played against UT Martin, which what an outlier that is. UT Martin was amazing. on offense against the Tennessee defense. If they can play like they did against LSU and Kentucky and shut down a Georgia offense that isn't very good, I mean, you got Stetson Bennett and Brock Bauer, and that's basically it. The running, obviously, you're going to have the running game of Georgia, but little sneaky no. I know Tennessee, the headlines are Hendon Hooker, Jalen Hyatt. Tennessee run defense is like low key, like really good. And people don't talk about it. Like it's really, really impressive. So if the defense can step up, play clean football, just score more. I mean, I know that's like a very big cop-out answer, but just score more because when Kirby lets up 30 points, he doesn't win.
I think one of the biggest things you said there was that they really destroyed Will Levis. I mean, they made him look like a dude that just came off the street, coming to play, and a top draft prospect like he is. They made him look horrible. And like you said, I mean, defense is coming to play, and I like seeing that in SEC football where people are going to run all over the place, all across the field. But I mean, you got D-backs covering the whole field, you got linebackers covering the whole field. It's going to be a party up in Rocky Top this weekend.
Oh, 1,000%. And I like the game's in Athens, but Knoxville, I mean, even Athens is going to be painted orange. I know it. Knoxville's going to be going crazy. I'm going to be here in West Kentucky, and I'm going to be painted in orange. All my family's going to be painted in orange. It's just going to be a huge party.
Well, I mean, if one thing clear about the 40% BS show, and we show this in our Wheelby shows and everything, we love parties. So we want to see Tennessee get it done. Especially, I mean, I'll mention one of the things that impressed me the most about you guys, even though it is the cop-out answer. I remember I saw Chad Johnson or Chad Ochocinco, whichever is your cup of tea, early in the season. He was tweeting out, he's like, man, that Jalen Hyatt kid, best wide receiver in the country. And he was saying that like week 2 or 3. As a guy who likes Ohio State, I was looking at that and I was like, blasphemy. So I finally decided to tune into a Tennessee game. First one I ever watched the entire year. And I was like, okay, let's see what he can do against some Alabama defensive backs. Oh my goodness. That is one of the best individual performances I have ever seen. Tennessee is just on absolute fire right now. In all honesty, who do you think has to be the biggest factor showing up in that game? Jalen or Hendon?
I don't think it's either one of them. I think it's Josh Heupel, the coach. I think the scheme that Josh Heupel has, I mean, even Kentucky's coach last week mentioned it. They were ready for what was going to happen. They're like, they're going to throw deep balls to Jalen Hyatt. We know what's coming. And the things that Josh Heupel's able to do and draw up these different schematic fits that just confuse defenses, it just absolutely kills them. Because I posted a TikTok. I've become a TikToker. I'm the next Bryce Hall. It's happening. I posted a TikTok where I was talking about, and it showed it on there. It was the first play of that Kentucky, not the first play, the first touchdown play of the Kentucky game where Hendon hit Jalen deep. And it showed where they stacked the receivers. I think it was Cedric. It might have been Brew. I don't know. One of our amazing receivers stacked with Jalen Hyatt. And they run, and I think Cedric cuts in. And it confuses the absolute hell out of the linebacker in the corner there. And because Tennessee's going so fast, you get a linebacker over there on a wide receiver. Linebacker can't cover Jalen Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt is so fast. Jalen runs right by him. They don't know what to do. Touchdown, easy 6. Tennessee up 7-0. Literally did not have to score a single, another point because they only gave up 6. That was all they needed. And it was like 20 seconds in. So I think it's Josh Heupel. What he's able to do, obviously, Hendon is the man. Jalen Hyatt is the man. Jalen's a future first rounder, in my opinion. Hendon should be, but people are ageist, and I think that's ridiculous. But that's a story for another day.
If there's one worry coming into this game with the Georgia offense is Stetson Bennett. Personally, I think Stetson Bennett's overrated. I don't think he's as good as people are saying. But is there one scheme on defense that you're trying to take away other than just the running game?
Brock Bowers. I think that dude is like, football's weird because like basketball, you can say like that guy's the best player in the country. Like if we were talking college basketball, it's like, yeah, Oscar Tshiebwe, he's the best or whatever. Football's weird because like there's tons of guys like Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he is so good. Jackson Smith and Jigba from Ohio State. I mean, there's so many guys at different positions that are so amazing. Brock Bowers, what he's able to do at tight end is so amazing. And I'll be honest, hand up, have not watched a ton of Georgia football this year because it's boring. Like I was talking to my brother. The Tennessee Titans are 5-2. Since I came on here last time, the Titans haven't lost. Like absolutely incredible. Like we were like pushing the panic button. They suck, all this, and they just haven't stopped winning. But they play boring football, like incredibly boring. I've fallen asleep during every game this year because it's just been so boring. Georgia's kind of the same way. They play really, really boring football, but it works. They win. And I think the one like exciting factor of that offense is Brock Bowers because you never know what he's going to do. He can bring in the crazy catches. I watched like 2 plays of that Georgia Florida game, and he made a crazy catch and then like bulldozed defender and then walked in the end zone. It's like, yeah, him. He is him. And it's the evolution of tight end position. We saw it with guys like Tony Gonzalez when we were younger, and then it evolved into like Gronk, and then now we have like Travis Kelce, and then it's going to go into like hopefully Kyle Pitts if they ever throw him the ball in Atlanta, and then Brock Bowers, hopefully. Because I think that guy is awesome, even though I'm going to really hate him at about 2:30 on Saturday.
Oh yeah, we are big Brock Bauer fans here at Television Sports. As you know, he viewed our voting for College Player of the Year, so we appreciate him. And I don't even know the name of the other tight end at Georgia. It's not coming to me off the top of my head.
DeAndre Washington, I believe.
Freak of nature. What is he, like 6'7", 6'6"?
He's like 6'7", 6'8", because Tennessee like recruited him so hard, and I remember he almost came to UT.
Yeah, no, 6'7", 6'8", either or, 260. Just an absolute beast all around the field, which my favorite part about football, sometimes you could be, or I guess it's with basketball too, sometimes you could be the biggest person on the field, biggest person on the court, and it just doesn't matter if someone is just that skilled, and that's what Hendon Hooker is. If Hendon Hooker wins this game, is that Heisman Trophy coming down to Knoxville, Tennessee?
Before I get to that, it's Darnell Washington. I misspoke. I call him, I don't know where I got DeAndre Washington. It's Darnell Washington, and he's a freak. Yes, I think Hendon's already got locked up, to be honest. I don't even think he has to win this game. I think as long as he puts up like another 300-yard, 3-touchdown performance against this Georgia defense, I think it's his. I was talking to my dad. He went to the Tennessee UT Martin game, and that's a game where it's like, yeah, they're going to kill him, but let's get Hendon some stats. It was the week after the Alabama game, and it was right before halftime. They took Hendon out, which I was like, yeah, good move. We're up by $1 billion. And I was like, but it kind of sucks. He didn't get his stats. And then you look at the box score. He had 315 yards and 3 touchdowns in a quarter and a half. And it's like, what in the world? So Hendon's able to do these things where he still puts up crazy numbers. And I really don't think they have to win for Hendon to win the Heisman. Obviously, I want him to, but I think the things Hendon's done already this season, I think as long as he has another big game with big numbers, I think it's his. I really, really do. I think with all the preseason hype behind C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, I don't think they've reached what they could have been. I still think C.J.'s been great. I think Bryce Young's the best player in the country. I think Bryce is awesome. But I think there was so much hype behind those guys that they've let people down, which sucks because they're both great. But I think they've let people down. So you've got stories of a guy like Hendon who's led a team that was unranked to start the year. That was a dumpster fire 18 months ago to being the number 1 team in the country at the first college football playoff rankings. I think as long as Hendon keeps it up, I think it's his.
Oh, I could see that 100%. I mean, personally, I want CJ Stroud to come away with it, but I texted you personally about it, and I asked you, and when you broke it down for me, that award coming down there over to Knoxville, Tennessee, that would make a lot of sense over there, especially in the past. He would be your first trophy winner? Am I wrong? I know Peyton came in second.
Yeah, he would be the first one. And I never realized it until like high school that Tennessee didn't have a Heisman winner. And I had a good friend, shout out to Mitchell Bump. He's an Ohio State fan, Ohio State graduate now. And he's always teased me about it. He'd be like, man, Tennessee doesn't have a Heisman winner. And their best player ever, Peyton, lost to a defensive back. I'm like, hey, let's stop that. And Peyton even said it before the Alabama game. It's like Hendon's the man now. It's not Peyton Manning. So he's got the approval from Peyton, and I think it's him. I really do.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'm going to go off topic here for a second. If the loser of this game, are they still in the college football playoff? Will they make the final 4 pairing that is going to come down? What do you think of this? I mean, a lot of it turns to TCU and what they do and what Clemson does, but do you see 2 SEC teams making it? I get a lot of it depends on if Alabama or LSU comes out of their side and would win the SEC championship or anything. But do you see 2 SEC teams in this?
So I think Tennessee can lose this game. I don't think Georgia can. And I know that's crazy because they're the defending champions. But I think Tennessee has such a stronger resume. Georgia hasn't played anyone. I know they played Oregon. Oregon was not Oregon when they played that game. Oregon's got so much better. I understand, like, when you really look at it, it's like, yeah, they still played Oregon. Oregon wasn't ready for that game. They weren't what they are now. Oregon's so much better. I know they played Florida. I mean, I don't really consider Florida that big of a win for Tennessee. Tennessee underperformed in that Florida game. I mean, Tennessee's got the win over Alabama, obviously. Pittsburgh is a win that I know now it doesn't look as great, but Pittsburgh's so injured at this point. That team was so impressive to me in week 2. I really, really like that Pittsburgh team, which they've gone downhill, but going on the road and defeating the defending ACC champions in week 2, I thought was really impressive. Going to Death Valley and just thumping LSU. Like, we'll see what Alabama can do to that team, but I thought that was really impressive by Tennessee, and then beating a top 25 or top 20 Kentucky team by 1 billion and making Will Levis look like a joke. I think Tennessee's got such a good resume. Georgia, they gave up 24 points to Kent State, and they're supposed to have this great defense. They were in a game all night with Missouri, and everybody in the country was like, Missouri's going to beat Georgia. What is going on? People have been doubting Georgia all year. People have just been like, oh, is Tennessee for real? We know Georgia's for real. I think it's different levels to it. I don't know. I don't think Georgia's got the spark, the fun, the resume. I don't think so, but I don't know. They could always screw Tennessee over. I'm very aware I'm very biased in this question.
Yeah, I feel like one thing that kind of hurts Michigan and Ohio State is just the fact that they play each other that last week of the year. Because if you get a loss early on, you can improve your resume. Oh, well, they beat the crap out of this team, beat the crap out of this team. But when that's your last look and your last like real vision is like, oh, because the loser's not going to get to play another game that year, realistically. And I think that's ultimately what's going to be able to hurt them and keep them out. So I think it is going to be probably 2 SEC teams. They can even find a way to sneak Alabama in there. They always do.
Do you guys think there's a chance we could get 3 SEC teams? Like, Tennessee loses this weekend. We get a Georgia-Alabama SEC championship game. Alabama beats Georgia. And let's say like Clemson loses and Michigan loses to Illinois, and then Michigan beats Ohio State, like something crazy.
I actually think it's you have a high probability, especially what's going on in the Big 12 and TCU ranked up there as well. I mean, one loss, I think they're an auto knockout. It's just because their strength of schedule is not. If you look at the college football playoff and how they're ranking them, the whole time they're talking about strength of schedule. I mean, Michigan during the year has played the school of the blind and the deaf. And if I'm not going to lie, their strength of schedule sucks. They're playing no one on the upside. It's 11 versus 0. And so that's why they're not as highly ranked as other people would have thought. And Clemson, you just look at Clemson, you say they should be good based off the name, but when you're watching their games, they're not very good. They're just not very good. And so I would say if Clemson loses the games, they're almost damn near auto out. And so you could hypothetically have a chance at 3 SEC teams in there. And I would like to put Ohio State in there. I think those are the 4 best teams you have to put in. I don't think Clemson is one of the 4 best teams. Again, I think they're a lot overrated, and the name gets them there quite a bit. But how fun would it be if you see 3 SEC teams in Ohio State, 4 prolific offenses going against each other, and whoever scores the most points, let's get down and dirty in this. I mean, let's start scoring 70 a game. Let's see some basketball scores up in here. I love this. I would love to see it. I like TCU a little bit, but I think they're a bit overrated. Well, they got lucky in a few games. They really do not play well in the first half. And so this is the thing that I would look for down the stretch is can they hold a first half lead? They're really not doing so. They come together with life in the second half. But I would love, and I would be a big proponent of having 3 SEC teams in there. I mean, it's college football. You know, SEC comes first in mind. It's like faith down there. They preach SEC football. SEC football is built different. And Ohio State's basically an SEC football team. So let's see basically 4 SEC football teams.
Yeah, for me, I honestly think it's not if Clemson loses, it's when. I've been looking for them to lose every single week. And you know what? I don't think they're surviving Sam Hartman twice if they see him again. He absolutely balled out, killed them that one game. And also looking at the top 25, the ACC is sneakily good. And Clemson, I don't think that great of a football team. You look at it, North Carolina, they're a top 25 team. They can maybe sneak them if they make the championship somehow. Then you got Syracuse, Wake Forest, NC State. All it takes is one team to knock them out. With how weak Clemson's schedule has been looking lately, that's it. They're going to be done. And then that gives a chance for somebody to potentially sneak in, especially because the Big 12 is weird, man. There's no way I would have thought Kansas State would 48-point win, just straight mollywop. I know the running back, your boy Dylan, went off, but like I would have never saw that coming. There's a lot of things I don't see coming in the Big 12. overall. So just I think that's going to change the things around a little bit, and it could potentially happen. In all honesty,
You want me to give you a game to watch for Clemson to lose? Because I've been thinking about this for a while. Oh, let me see what the date is. Saturday, November 12th, at Clemson, South Carolina, the Louisville Cardinals come to play. I really think Louisville can beat Clemson. Well, this past Saturday, they played Wake Forest, number 10 Wake Forest, and absolutely beat the insert word here, whatever you want to say. They beat that out of that Wake Forest team. They forced like 57 turnovers. They made Sam
It was
Hartman
8
look
in the
like,
second half.
I'm getting a phone call. 1 second.
you said 8 in the second half. So Spence,
I mean, that's Tennessee calling you. That might be Rocky Top calling you. You got free tickets to the Georgia game. You're going fly down to Georgia. Let's go see some volunteer football.
Okay, I'm good. Louisville. I was talking about Louisville. I was getting called from Josh Heupel. He's like, hey, we need to talk about the schematics. They played Wake Forest last weekend. They forced like 57 turnovers, won by 1 million. And I like that Wake Forest team. You were talking about Wake Forest. I really think Louisville started talking about maybe Satterfield's on the hot seat. And that Louisville defense, that Louisville offense, Malik Cunningham, they woke up. They're like, we like this coach. You want to save your coach, go to Clemson and knock them out of the playoff. And I think Louisville might have the juice to do it. They got some athletes on that team.
If Tennessee were to lose this game, do you still have them in your top 4 of the college football playoff, especially ranked at number 1 and losing a number 3 team at Georgia?
So Dylan Jesperson's not going to like this. But I think Tennessee, even losing to Georgia, as long as it's close. If it's a blowout, yeah, drop them down. But I still think Tennessee's better than Clemson. I still think they're better than Michigan. Ohio State terrifies me. Obviously, Georgia. Georgia's weird because they're a defensive team. So I don't know what to think about it because there hasn't been a defense that could stop Tennessee. Ohio State, I dream of that game. I really think that's the national championship. I think that's the 2 best teams. But yeah, I think they're still better than Clemson. I think they're still better than Michigan. So I really think if they lose, drop them down to 4 and let's have at it, or 3. I really just flop them if it's close. If it's not, then yeah, drop them. Make them earn their way back up.
That would basically, if you're going to put them at 3 or 4, if they win out, they're basically auto win the college football playoff then. You would have to say. And then the winner of the championship is an auto win too. I mean, I don't know how else to put it, that if Alabama were to beat Georgia in the SEC championship and Tennessee were to lose this game against, there's your 3 right there. Then you have, I mean, it's weird because you're going to have 3 names in college football, and name carries a lot of weight when it comes to college football playoff. And so it's going to be a crazy fun time. This is the year where you were to say, oh, I wish there were 6 teams that were going to make the college football playoff, just to see how all of this would play out. But if you're looking at year to year, this is probably the only year where you could say that. I mean, you look at every time there's a semifinal in the college football playoff, and it's like, oh my God, it's going to be a 20, 30-point game. I don't even want to watch that. But this year, I would pay to watch every game.
Yeah, we talked about last week. I presented my question. I was like, is this year the perfect argument for this 12-team playoff that's coming? And the other Dylan, he was like, I don't know. Like, some of these lower tier teams, like, do they really deserve? Like, last week, I think Penn State was 12th in the country. He's like, does Penn State really deserve to make the playoff? Who cares? What if they get hot? What if that freshman quarterback gets the start? What if that freshman running? That's like the best part of college basketball. That team that like hobbled in and barely made North Carolina this past season. Everyone was rooting for North Carolina, as long as you're not a Duke fan. Everybody was rooting for North Carolina, and that was so much fun. Like, could you imagine Penn State like hobbles in, and all of a sudden they upset Alabama, and it's like, whoa, Penn State just became America's team, kind of like Tennessee did. Unless you're from the SEC and they know to hate Tennessee because our fans are the worst. That's okay. I think this season there's teams like, obviously there's the top, and we've talked about it with Tennessee and Georgia and Ohio State. Alabama belongs in that conversation. And then you've got teams like Clemson and Michigan and TCU. And if it wasn't for this past week, I would have thrown Oklahoma State in. I really liked Oklahoma State, and then they just absolutely pooped the bed. Penn State before this week. You got teams that are fun, interesting, and I think that 12-team playoff will present just so much more interest rather than we're at this point in the season. It's like, okay, we got to watch Tennessee and Georgia, and then we got to watch to see if Clemson loses.
Yeah, well, honestly, if you throw that 12-team playoff in this year, Tulane could get in this year. I mean, that's a team that would have a shot. You could have them play Alabama. It's a team that knocked off K-State earlier in the year. It's just throw some fun into it. It's not March Madness anymore. What would it be then? It'd be like January Madness or something. I mean, just throw some more love into it. It would probably be December then, but
December disturbedness. December, I don't know, a D word.
yeah.
December, I don't know. December delight. There we go.
I love it.
Trademark it, put it in. Speaking of delights, we're going to move forward to mine and Spencer's favorite part of the show. It's called The Wheel. Let me break it down for you. So pretty much we have random sports categories, but also we have stuff that's super off topic. About a couple weeks ago, I compared Chick-fil-A to Chris Paul. So we have a lot of different stuff where we go down and we randomize it, go through the wheel, and it has random like type of game discussions we can do and then random topics. And I actually am about to spin it right now while we have our theme song going. Okay, I accidentally did it twice. So we have a choice of two things for the first time in wheel history, so let's make history. So there's two different ones. It could be a group vote for which one you guys would rather do. So the first one is drafting, something I know you're pretty similar with the out of the box. So we would be drafting a 3-on-3 team. Each of us would get a turn. Dylan's our guest, so he would go first and go 1, 2, 3 of cartoon characters. Or, it's something I added that's new. It's called best, and then we have the different categories. So it's best and then beer. So we're not going to do what is the best beer. Instead, it's going to be like best sports moment that would go along with the beer. So for example, how some people are like, I'll throw one out there. I don't like baseball much, but people are like, oh, opening day, sitting there watching TV. We're not talking about getting drunk or anything. We're just talking about enjoying one. And what sports moment would happen to be the best to enjoy it while a singular one, but what sports moment would happen to be the best while you're enjoying that one? And then we would just all go through and each pick like 2 or 3. So which one would you guys rather do? Cartoons or the beer one?
I mean,
sounds phenomenal.
Both of them sound great. I am up to whatever.
Spence, you said which one?
The beer one.
All right. Well, that's it. Dylan, you are a guest, so we will let you go first. Do you guys want to each pick 2 or 3?
Let's do 3.
Yeah, fine.
3. More the merrier, man.
So my number 1, this came right to mind. I'm going back. I'm giving you a specific moment. And I had one singular Budweiser. I was sitting in Busch Stadium in August. Cardinals, Yankees, Sunday afternoon, 1:07 first pitch. I'm watching the St. Louis Cardinals, the New York Yankees. Aaron Judge up to bat. I have the beer guy. I wave to him. He hands me the the Budweiser can, excuse me. It's got Adam Wainwright, Yadier Molina on the can, their faces, my 2 childhood idols when it comes to baseball. I get to crack it open, enjoy a nice, crisp Budweiser in St. Louis, watching the New York Yankees, Aaron Judge, the juggernaut of baseball, and my childhood favorite team, the St. Louis Cardinals. And then on that day, I'd been going to baseball games for forever. And I saw the Cardinals win for the first time ever in person at Busch Stadium. Great moment, great time, and a great, just enjoy it with one singular beer.
All right. Spence, you second or third? Because we're about to snake draft it. So I'm good with going second or third.
I'll just go now. So let's pin this back to last year. Everyone knows I'm a North Carolina fan. North Carolina everything, North Carolina football, North Carolina baseball, North Carolina basketball. But let's take us back to last year in March. We're playing Duke in the Final Four. For those of you that don't know about me, I live in Kansas City. So obviously we're not going to talk about the national championship game because that was just a horrible game for me to be watching in Kansas City. As I'm in Power and Light, you picture Power and Light. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen this. There's a mega TV and there's probably a couple thousand fans there. I'm maybe one of 4 North Carolina fans there in the front row though. But let's take it back to the Duke game. I'm going to throw my Coors out there because the Coors, the mountains are blue. The mountains are blue this game and light blue because North Carolina absolutely kicked Duke and threw him down. We left Coach K to the dumpster. We basically retired him on 2 different instances. And that was maybe almost one of the best sports moments of my life, other than seeing North Carolina win the national championship twice, just because I was too young to watch in 2005. But absolutely seeing them dog water Duke in the Final Four game and seeing them give a little farewell to Coach K. See you later, dude. We don't want to see any of you anymore. And just kind of seeing them progress their way in a national championship as a 9 seed coming in. Didn't really have much hope going in, but those mountains were blue that day. The Coors was popped. We were having a grand time. I was going crazy. Again, there were probably maybe seven UNC fans there that day until 4 came and actually showed their beloved faith in the national championship. But that was a great day where the mountains were blue. The sun was not there. It was very dark out, but the mountains are always blue with the Coors.
I'm gonna go with this. I'm not going with a specific moment on this one. I'm gonna go broad here. But after, and you guys know this, after graduating college, you know, working Monday through Friday, it's a lot different than being in college and having that Monday through Friday. So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting all day for one thing. Monday night, that first Monday night of the year, and I hear 2 noises. I hear Mariah Carey, or Carrie Underwood, my bad, that's blasphemy. I got Christmas on my mind, so I had to think of Mariah. But I hear Carrie Underwood, and she starts singing, and I hear one other sentence, and I was like, and just having that moment, I get chills right then and there. And I can know I'm not clocked in. I can just sit back, relax, and just enjoy this nice football game. So that's got to be my. All right, and then I guess if we're snaking it, I would go again. So if I have to go a moment, I went to the Eagles-Cardinals game. Me and my friend, we had tickets up in the higher rows. We went to take a picture down in the lower rows and, you know, ended up being in the lower rows for a while there. And I just remember sitting there chilling back, and that beer tasted amazing. First of all, because it was overpriced, so it better have. You know, close your eyes and just sitting back watching the Eagles. I've never seen the Eagles win a game live, so sitting there watching them do that and then just having a nice sip while Jalen Hurts had a nice, amazing game on his way to an MVP consideration season. It was just a beautiful moment for me overall. And I had to go with that, and it was Modelo.
I got some up again. There was this, Blake, I don't know if you remember being in Kansas City, but there was this beer called the Rolling Rock. You remember that? Dylan, do you know what type of beer I'm talking about?
Of course I do.
This is just like selling water in a can. The most disgusting beer that you could ever buy. It's probably worth maybe a penny. But this is what I think about when I look at the Bengals this year. I think they're so overrated. This beer is overrated. The Bengals are overrated. Their offensive line's overrated. Joe Burrow, probably not overrated, but he's going to be hurt. You might as well throw that Rolling Rock to the side because I don't know how long he's going to be playing. And with Jamar Chase out right now, it's just dog water in Bengals country. And so that's why I'm going to compare. I know I'm blowing Jamar Chase, Blake, your favorite wide receiver in the game. But I think the Bengals are so overrated. Rolling Rock's overrated. It's the worst beer known to mankind. And that's why I'm going to have to put the Bengals as kind of on the poop list. They're just be thrown in a trash can right now. So overrated, especially after making the Super Bowl last year. I can't even explain it how badly they're overrated they are.
To at least somewhat back up what you said, literally, I don't know if you guys will see it and anyone watching on YouTube, you can replay it. He literally said Rolling Rock, and I thought you were about to say something good, and I literally went. So that's all. I just want to add on. I wanted to co-sign.
So I got my last 2 picks. I'm doing both of them moments because I just like telling stories. As we all know, I came on here to talk Vol football, so I gotta incorporate Vol football in this. Well, if we go back, 3 weeks ago? Tennessee, they beat this team from down south. They wear red. I think they're called Alabama, and it was the first time in 16 years. And everyone became aware on social media that this game, the significance of winning it. And even though it hasn't been competitive, Alabama still celebrated hard. Tennessee celebrated a little bit harder. And the cigars became a very popular thing. If you know me, I'm kind of pessimistic. My brother and I, we watched the game, and we didn't have cigars ready because we're a little pessimistic. So we went out in West Kentucky, where we live, trying to find cigars. Couldn't find them. So we did as God intended. We bought some cigarillos, some good old backwoods, excuse me. And we went to Buffalo Wild Wings, and we fake smoked some backwoods because I wasn't smoking backwoods. No thanks. I took a funny picture with some backwoods, walked in Buffalo Wild Wings, ordered a Blue Moon, dropped the orange in there, and celebrate as God intended at Buffalo Wild Wings, drinking a Blue Moon, watching Kentucky fans freak out as the Tennessee Volunteers beat Alabama. It was absolutely incredible. I loved every second of it with my one Blue Moon. And Blue Moon's my favorite beer. I love it so much. It's nice and refreshing. It's one that I've learned to really love as I get older. And then my last one, I got to talk about my Murray State Racers. I absolutely have to. My senior year, or no, my junior year, I don't know, in college. I can't remember college. It was one of those times. Murray was so good in basketball. We were in the OVC championship. It was Ja's sophomore year, Ja Morant's sophomore year. We're up there for the OVC championship. At this time, I'm working for Barstool Sports, and I'm running social media for him. And Ja had acquired so many interactions on our post that I got paid like $100. And so I was 21 and I bought beers for me and my buddy, and we drank them as the time ran down on Murray winning the OVC championship. Dapped up Ja. Very, very cool moment I'll live in my head forever. Obviously, Ja wasn't Ja yet. He was just like Murray Ja. But from what he became, I can't remember the exact beer it was, but OVC championship Ja dapping up beer, can't beat that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to make this one quick, but I don't know what you guys refer to this as. It could be a blue yummy, could be a bush latte, but I'm going with Bush Light here. You don't know. A lot of people love it. A lot of people hate it. You don't know what you're gonna get out of it. Some people think it's overrated. Some people it's underrated. I got to throw it next to the Golden State Warriors this year. It's my team to go with. It's my NBA team. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a huge Draymond Green fan. I love Draymond Green. Jordan Poole's coming up there besides it, but you just don't know what you're getting out of this Golden State team this year. Are they overrated? Could they be underrated? Why are they losing these games? They're allowing so many points, but I'm going to have to put Bush Light up there just because you don't know what you're going to get out of it. Some people love it. Some people hate it. And some people love the Golden State Warriors. Some people don't like them. So just have to throw that out there. Not a specific moment, but just to a team that's starting their NBA season.
Yeah, and if I have to compare mine to, it's a tight race. I'm gonna do a throwback to when we went to school together while we were at Rockers. And during that season, the Philadelphia Eagles were fresh off a Super Bowl, but we had a lot of issues, especially with Carson going down. And there was a lot of stuff that was kind of confusing about the team. So I'd like to compare them a little bit to, they were a little cheap, to be honest. We kind of cheaped out on paying players that year, and that was a struggle that caused us to be bad. And we were a little cheap and we were a little broken. But when it came down to it at the end of the game, we were reliable and we won games for our team because we could always get the job done. And that's what those tall boy natty lights did for me during my early college days. The singular one, but I pause. Shout out that if you go to Rutgers, you know. But that singular one, man. I mean, I was poor, I was cheap, but I wasn't broke. And neither were the Eagles, and neither was that drink. So yeah, that'll do it at least for what I have to say for the rest of the podcast. Tune in to well, I'll let you advertise your own, Dylan. Thank you. We have episodes every single week coming out on Wednesdays. And the only other thing I would like to say, I guess, would be nothing. That's it.
Yeah, check out the Dylan and Dylan show. It comes out Friday. Talking Vols. It probably comes out Sunday. It might come out Monday. It'll be on Spotify. It'll be around this podcast on those Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you get your podcast.
Yeah, I don't have much else to say other than Dylan, hope the boys can bring it out this weekend and defeat the Bulldogs. But orange and white, I guess, this weekend. Rocky Top it is.
Yes, sir. It's home sweet home to me. Go Vols.
Best of luck, and thank you so much, Dylan.
Thank you for having me.